I'm Madeline Kronenberg,
And I'm Consuelo Lara.
and we're here to talk about things going on in West Contra Costa Unified School District and education in California and nationwide. So we had a school board meeting this week, and you want to tell us your feelings about this meeting, Miss Laura?
Yeah, it was very frustrating. You know, we were trying very hard to not make cuts that were close to the classroom, make sure that students were try to affect as little as possible. And so towards that end, we said, let's look at contracts. I mean, that was kind of a deal that the board decided to look at contracts for the sole purpose of cutting some so that we could have more monies to keep grad tutor positions, or at least some more of them. And I guess everybody forgot that when it came time to vote, because that was my motion. It was just cut those contracts that we identified and then use that money. Oh, first of all, pass the budget and then cut those with the cuts on the contracts and use that money for grad tutor positions. To me, that's a simple thing, and that's basic. That's the least we could have done. And we didn't do it. It didn't happen. Mr. Phillips and I, we voted for it, and nobody else did. And it was puzzling to me and bizarre, and it was very disappointing. But like I was telling somebody today, it's not over. We're going to keep fighting, still keep trying to, grow our budget. And I don't think it's too late to cut those contracts. I think we could still do that. So I don't know. I'm new, so I'm trying to figure it out. So what do you think?
Well, the conversation was left that there was going to be a special budget meeting. And that sort of was out on the table, and I haven't heard anything about that. The board has set a special budget meeting. And that really is where the public was left, thinking that there would be an opportunity to revisit the budget. And then there were also board members who had different other criteria that they were bringing into things that they wanted to have cut or not cut. So hopefully that promise of the special meeting will be kept by the board leadership, and that would be another chance to actually revisit the conversation. If there is no other special meeting, then we're left with the fact that the grad tutors who were employed by the district all received a pink slip.
They did.
And so the fact of the matter is, as of right now, they don't have a job at the end of the school year.
That's right.
Right? And for all of us I've received a pink slip, all of us who've ever received a pink slip because of budget budget issues, we all know what that means. So we don't want to be dismissive of their personal situations here. And if I were one of them, I would be, seriously looking at what my next steps were going to be for my own personal future. So I know that they're doing that. But I hope the board realizes that and comes forward and does what they promised and said was their intention, which would be to have a special board meeting. When it would have to happen very, very soon, within the next couple of weeks.
I have to look at that language then, and I'll bring it up and say, hey, it was out there, so let's act on it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Okay.
right, and just say, look, this is what you said. The majority of the board wants to do this, so
Yeah, let's act on it.
let's act on it.
That's a good point.
Because if you don't act on it, what you're simply doing is ratifying the fact that all of them are gone.
Yeah, and I personally don't want to do that. No, I'm not letting go of this right now. So that's kind of where we are with that.
Yeah, that was the biggest news out of that particular meeting this week. I mean, there were also other things. It was a long meeting, wasn't it?
Only went till 12.
Yeah, well, till you ran out of tape.
And then we had to leave because the video people had to leave, so that was the reason.
Well, that's, in the past, I don't know, the contract is different, how they pay overtime is different, but we've had meetings that went after 12, and where they would take the tape out and come back in and put it back in and keep going.
Oh, really?
That is not an unusual thing to have happened.
Okay.
I mean, and you can do that. It's just a question of whether or not you're willing to pay the overtime.
Oh, I see.
because
Yeah, that
they don't
wasn't-
work into a second day.
No, that
we
was-
get paid the same, but they get paid extra when they work after midnight.
Yeah, that was not brought up, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's how that works.
Yes,
Yes.
long meeting.
All right, so let me mention two things.
Okay.
Oakland had their meeting this week too,
Mm.
and the city of Oakland went ahead and adopted their community of schools, I think that's what it's called, policy, which is going to possibly result in the closure of their 24 schools. But they also did an interesting thing around the bills that are now in Sacramento regarding the charter schools. And that's 1505, 1506, 1507, and 1508 assembly bills. And they have a legislative committee that's made up of two of their board members, Ms. Gonzalez and Ms. London. And they apparently have a consultant that they hire, School Services, that's the name of School Services, Inc., I think. And they give them a list of legislation every year when legislation first comes out, and they decide whether or not they're going to support it or oppose it. And I think it's really important that, I think, not that West Contra Costa hires school services, but that we take a much more active role in legislation. And you have already done that, right? You've already
Oh, yeah,
Proposed-
posting and.
and you've proposed a resolution
to support the legislation,
that
yes.
those particular bills.
Yes, yes. In fact, I probably should talk about that. I
Yes, go
submitted
ahead.
two proposals for the agenda. One being to support all of that legislation. And I did that because it was in the moratorium, which was passed by the board. In fact, that was the first line, that we would support state legislation. Okay, here state legislation came.
Right.
So we're supporting it. It passes the board, and then we'll send that support up to Sacramento.
Right.
That we support that. The other one was concerning CTE, and we can talk about that later.
Right. So for that legislation, I'm going to put the link in here for us so that this is CTA has a letter writing campaign to support that legislation. And if you follow the link that I'll put in the description, you'll be able to send letters to your legislators and share it out with everybody you know who lives in California, to send letters to their legislators so that people understand this is a bill. All this does is level the playing field and support public education and keep us from essentially being completely defunded as a result of the unregulated growth of charter schools in the state. This is the first time we've really made a reasonable step forward, and we need to continue to support it. But then you have your other bill as well, right? The CTE bill.
Yeah,
Resolution.
before we go to that one though, I want to ask you, do you think it's possible for us here in this district to have a legislative task force?
Absolutely.
What do you think?
But I don't think we need to hire
No,
the consultants.
Just, it would be a
Yes.
board member like me.
Yes.
And maybe one other.
Yes,
And
that
then
would
we
make
would
it a
be-
legislative task force.
That would be a task force, and we could do exactly what they're doing over there.
That's right.
With that long list of bills that are education, focused, and we could,
You could take positions.
We could
right?
take positions
And there's
on
no
those.
reason not to do that. And you could do that by looking at, it's not just, obviously, the document that School Services produced for Oakland is a public document. They produce other similar public documents for whoever their other clients are. That would be public. But they're also, the district is a member of the California School Boards Association. They produce documents and take positions, and other associations do too. So it
And
would
we
just
could-
be a matter of reviewing them.
and bring those to the board, and let's vote on them, and then send that support up to Sacramento.
Right.
I like that idea. Maybe that's going to happen. Okay. And the other resolution, it has to do with CTE. One of the big focus I have is we need our students to graduate with a high school diploma and training to get a job, be it a union job, CTE, computers. So this is towards that end. And looking at Kennedy High School, and so that kind of training, we just need to have that. It's really missing. It's a big void, and we're not helping our students in the future if we don't train them for a job as soon as they
And we have
graduate.
thousands of students in our career academies now, right? Richmond High is wall-to-wall career academies. We have 19 career academies across the district, so thousands of our high school students are currently in those academies. And what would be good to know is how things are going, and how the academies are funded. They're funded. There are various streams of funding, and just as there needs to be a budget meeting about the budget in general, part of taking a look at the career academies would be seeing how they are, what the budget is for them, and where which ones have had the most success and which ones have struggled, and how they're being managed at the district level, because there have been a variety of different ways it's been done over the years that this district has been a leader in career academies statewide.
So this would help us just get it more organized at the district level,
Right.
so that we know what's happening everywhere, so that we can get this, we're not working in silos and all separate, but actually more cohesive and on purpose.
Right, and understanding which ones you want to add. For example, the Education Academy.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So in the course of looking at them and doing an analysis, you can see whether or not you want to, there's health, there's law, there's IT, there's engineering, there's creative and performing arts. There's this whole big variety of different academies that are existing in different communities. So it's very exciting. Our students who've been in the career academies have had a great deal of success, but we haven't done a really good job of taking a look at that success and celebrating that success and understanding what additional supports they may need. I mean, in particular, with how they connect with the business world.
Yes, that's really exciting. So once we could pass that, and we can have some presentations about that to the board, so they can see what's going on in our district about that.
Right.
Okay. Well,
I wanted to add two more things. What was the first? The first one is very interesting, and this is we spoke last week about the Teach for America bill, AB 221, that you went to see, and you met Miss Garcia. Well, it turns out that that bill is still out there and needs support from people, and I think ultimately when we find out when it's going to be heard, I'm really interested in when it is going to be heard, because I think it needs everyone to seriously consider why it's okay to put inexperienced teachers in front of the most vulnerable children. Really doesn't make sense. But at the same time, the head of TFA, whose name is Wendy Kopp, the person who was the founder, is coming to Berkeley to be the commencement speaker. And there was a movement among a number of people who are writing saying this is she's an inappropriate choice. But whether she's appropriate or not, I think one of the things I would like her to think about saying is that as she looks at her organization, her organization isn't designed to produce teachers or better teachers. It's designed to produce, as she puts it, leaders.
At the expense
of teachers and our children.
Goodness.
That's the thing.
Wow.
It's just like the education world. Remember the leaders of these other schools call themselves investors. Right?
Wow.
So, okay, so if that's really not your goal, then I think that might want to be part of her comments, right? And the way she's producing those leaders is displacing experienced teachers in schools that have the highest poverty children, where there should be a real flip around that, on how that is done. Maybe her young leaders need to be an assistant or an apprentice to an administrator, right? I mean, there are lots of things they could do, but teaching our most vulnerable children hasn't proven to be the most successful one for them.
Nope, not according to research.
No. And so, I mean, hopefully, I don't oppose her coming. I just would hope that she would be honest in how she frames what they're going to be doing in the future. And I have no idea how that will play out. The other thing was Mountain View. Mountain View is doing this incredible new thing. They're going to build 144 I guess they're apartments, but that will be used for workforce housing in their school district. And I think that they're a great model for us. We've worked on it before. You could bring, that'd be something really worth bringing back
Yes.
to facilities and say, even though we've had a look at it, we haven't looked at it exactly the way that Mountain View's doing it, which may make more sense now.
Sounds good. That sounds good. That's something we definitely could look at. And like you said, and then partnerships. There could be a lot of different
Partnerships with cities.
With cities. Oh my goodness, such a great idea.
Right? I mean, and cities need it for their own workforce, and it's the same thing.
Yes.
It's not just like,
Yes.
This is the middle income folks that are being left
Yeah.
behind.
We don't want our teachers to leave because they can't afford a place, to live.
No.
So
you have to be aggressive and say, we are going to do it. It's important to do.
yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And then we are going to go on a field trip to Sacramento, aren't we?
Yes.
On Monday.
On Monday.
Yes.
Going to a conference, what's it called?
CalBOC, California Bond Oversight Committees Association. All the things around bond oversight, right? And we'll know lots of the perspective of the folks who care very deeply about bond oversight.
It sounds really boring.
But it's important. It's very important because the idea is when you ask the community to invest, you want people to know that they can trust you.
And how you use it. Yeah,
that's what this is about.
Absolutely. Well, I want to share this morning I went to Perry's elementary school, and they had the Conscious Kitchen there, and it was like an event with a lot of community people, a lot of business. Was there a couple of doctors, pediatricians who talked about, if you have healthy food, feed them healthy food. It affects everything. It can affect, of course, their health. You have less absences. It improves their academic learning. I mean, it's just, the benefits are amazing. And we need to do this. We need to have more nutritious and organic foods for our children. These are our children's bodies. We need to nourish, we can't nourish their minds if their bodies are filled with, pesticides or whatever. So, it was a wonderful, wonderful event. I really had a good time. Alice Waters was there. She supports that.
Yep.
So, and one of the things that's interesting is it's kind of hard to cook foods at sites because new schools that they build don't have kitchens. They just have heat and serve kinds of kitchens.
Right.
So we thought of another idea for that.
Yes. Well, and it's interesting. I mean, the heat and serve kitchens are there because there is a central kitchen that was built, and then that was the model. But another model might be now to have a mobile kitchen, and maybe more than one mobile kitchen that would be available to be parked at different schools, and to find ways to be able to share out that way. And I'm not sure exactly how it would work, but it would be less expensive, at least to start it that way, than what we'd have to go through in order to try to rebuild all of the kitchens that would need to be rebuilt.
Well,
so I think it's worth taking a look at.
Idea. We're just full of ideas.
We're full of ideas.
Okay.
Yes.
So.
All right. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week. We can report on our CalBOC adventure next week.
Yes.
And maybe there'll be a special meeting by then. Maybe you'll have.
You never know.
No.
Stay tuned.
That's right. See you next week.
Bye.